Are you trying to scale your Amazon FBA business but keep running into costly mistakes? These mistakes can burn through your budget fast and even get your account suspended if you're not careful. I'll help you avoid the top 7 Amazon FBA pitfalls that most sellers don't realize until it's too late, and make sure to stick around to the end to hear about the most important mistake that most people don't even talk about, and an awesome bonus that I'm going to share with you that you can get for free. Hello, my name is Isaac Coleman, and I've been an Amazon seller since 2013, selling well over $10 million in revenue since that time on brands that I either own or have worked as the brand developer in. I'm also the founder of the original Amazon Coach, which is a consulting and training company that helps Amazon FBA sellers grow and scale their businesses by identifying the key issues of the business and fixing them. I've been honored to work with well over 1,000 sellers in my time as an Amazon coach, and I have also helped several sellers go from nothing to 7-figure sellers, and a couple of my past clients have even sold their businesses for 7-figure paydays. My goal in telling you this is to share with you the simple fact that I've seen and personally made pretty much every mistake on Amazon that can be made. One of them even came earlier this year. I'll share that mistake with you as well. So I know exactly what can happen and what to avoid. In this video, I want to share with you what I call the top 7 costly mistakes to avoid on Amazon FBA. Because if I could go back in time, I would have saved myself a lot of time, effort, and money by knowing these ahead of time. Here are the mistakes that I'm going to cover in this video today. Number 1, you picked the wrong product based on poor keyword research. Number 2, you are overpricing your product. Number 3, your main image doesn't attract shoppers. Number 4, your listing doesn't convert shoppers. Number 5, your packaging isn't optimized to save you money on FBA and freight fees. Number 6, you have hidden FBA fees that are eating your profits. And I'll share one last mistake at the end that most people don't even talk about at all. Make sure to follow this channel with a subscribe, like the video, and comment any questions you have if you're interested in learning more about Amazon FBA strategies. So let's talk about mistake number 1, which is picking the wrong product based on poor keyword research. So how do you know that you picked the wrong product? Well, you probably never get ranked on page 1 no matter how much you spend on ads. That's a pretty big indication that you're probably picking the wrong product for yourself. You also can never get profitable or don't get desired profit. So maybe you just don't understand why you're not doing it. Maybe you're just not inexperienced. But even if you are experienced, maybe you're still not getting that profit. You might have picked the wrong product. You have a lot of competitors selling thousands of units per month, and you don't. There's a lot of people out there that think they can just compete on any product, not really understanding what competition means. You might have picked the wrong product for your particular situation. Your freight fees, storage fees, and marketing costs have drained your bank account. This is a big one because most people don't really think about these things after, purchasing their inventory. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So how did you choose the wrong product in the first place? Well, you might have actually done the wrong search term or keyword research for your niche, and that can actually muck things up quite a bit. So you probably chose a keyword that wasn't the main keyword, just to do research on the product, only to find out that the keywords you need for sales are much more difficult to get ranking on. So let's say you were trying to actually sell a flashlight, and you were trying to say, my flashlight is for emergencies, and it's kind of one of those flashlights that you kind of put in your basement or your garage or something like that in case the power goes out. So you decided to put something like, rechargeable flashlight for emergencies, when it really might have just been emergency flashlight, or even just flashlight was the main keyword that you needed to do the research on, because you're still competing with a lot of flashlights, or non-battery operated flashlight, maybe rechargeable battery or rechargeable flashlight, something like that. Those might be better keywords to actually do the research on. So don't just go out there and think that you can, make it a really long keyword or a long search term and then do the research on that, because that's going to really mess things up for you. You might have also used the product research software incorrectly. So for example, if you're using Jungle Scout or Helium 10 or any other product research software, you might find that essentially when you put in filters, you put in, very particular filters, but it's actually filtering out your competitors. So if you say, let's find a product that isn't going to be too competitive, you probably put in some very particular metrics, like it doesn't have a BSR between 5 and 10,000. Well, there's probably competitors in that niche that does, but you just didn't realize that, you're filtering them out. So you've actually filtered out your competitors, but didn't realize that, you could sell against these products or whatever, or you had to sell against these products. So be very careful when you use product software tools, product research software tools, because essentially you could be using them to find products that aren't showing you the true scope of the opportunity and the competitiveness of that. You also might not understand that you didn't know how to plan for launch costs and ongoing fees when you first actually bought this product. And we'll talk more about this later, but it's kind of one of those things that you don't really wrap your head around about how much a business can actually cost, because you have things happen, mistakes will go on, maybe production times will run late, or you have to redo some production, whatever. There's going to be a lot of other things that are going to happen in the business that aren't going to be perfect for your business. So let's talk about mistake number 2. You are overpricing your product. What do I mean by this? So how do you know if you have an overpriced product? Well, if you have a low conversion rate on your product, then you probably have an overpriced product. If you have ads that have a low conversion rate of clicks to orders, then you probably have an overpriced product. Or you have a very poor converting listing, which we'll talk about in the mistake next. You might not get page 1 ranking on your main keywords because you're pricing yourself out of the actual competitiveness of that product on Amazon. You never hit your intended sales per day goal, probably because you're selling way above your competitors, or you've done something else to actually build out cost on your product. You have customer reviews that mention your price is too high. Now, I won't always say that this is true, because some customers always want cheap stuff. Other customers want high value stuff. And that's what we really want to go for, is we want to go for things that have high value on Amazon. They're the best product for that price, not the best product at the highest price, or not the luxury products at a luxury price. Your product includes some sort of bonus or another product that increases your cost, which means you have to raise your price. This is also known as bundling, or creating a bundle. So if you create a bundle, now you've kind of priced yourself out of your competitive niche, meaning if somebody's selling a shovel and you're selling a shovel and a rake, well, not everybody wants a shovel and a rake. So now you're charging twice as much or 1.5 times as much, and people just want a shovel. So they're going to buy just the shovel if that's what they need. So how did you choose the wrong price in the first place? Well, you probably wanted to hit a very high profit margin, maybe 50% or more. You also probably wanted to hit a high profit per unit number. So meaning dollar value, right? So you wanted to hit $15 per unit or something like that. You wanted to look like a premium brand, and as I kind of just explained, that doesn't always work on Amazon. Sometimes people want kind of luxury items, but for the most part, Amazon is a value-based platform where people are looking for the best price, the best product, kind of that thing, that high perceived value, but actually a good price. And then maybe you also wanted to make sure you had enough buffer to pad your profit against ad spend. Well, if you can actually plan that out ahead of time, you don't have to worry about that so much. I think ideally, if you can have 20% profit margins after ad spend, that's a pretty good way to start a business. Even if it's like a first or second product, you can get some really good profit margins after ads if you know what you're doing. You might have also wanted to create a unique selling point or proposition that includes an extra bonus or product to help stand out, i.e. that bundling again. And you thought maybe that rake with that shovel is the thing that people want, or creating a kit, or creating, 2 different colors, his and hers or something like that. Unless there's a really good pre-existing market for such a product, perhaps like, emergency kits, right? That is a kit of things. That's a bundle of different things, bandages and all that stuff. Then you probably don't want to just start bundling stuff for the sake of, creating a unique selling proposition. Not everybody wants that. Let's talk about mistake number 3. Your main image doesn't attract shoppers. So how do you know if your main image doesn't attract shoppers? Well, you probably have a low daily sessions in your business report. So that's probably like less than 50 per day. Your image doesn't stand out on the search results from your competition. So you kind of just blend into, a search result on Amazon. Your image is not filling up as much white space as possible. So, you might have a lot of white space on your main image. Whereas if you can kind of what I call crop in or zoom in, give that zoom in effect of your product, then you're going to actually stand out. And usually if you pick a different color or a bold color that stands out from white or from your competitors' colors, that also usually helps as well. Now, another one that beginner sellers kind of make because they don't really understand what the quality has to look like is your image might be blurry, or it might have poor photography or rendering or lighting on it. It might not be bright enough. It might just have shadows or something like that, and it doesn't look right. So, people are used to kind of really high production photography or graphic design, and you don't have to actually spend a lot to do that. You just have to understand how to do it, or have somebody who knows what they're doing actually get you a good main image. So how did you get a bad image in the first place? Well, you probably hired an expensive photographer who knows nothing about taking good Amazon photos, right? They don't understand how to help you stand out on Amazon search results. They know how to take a good, well-lit picture, but they don't understand how to actually make your image stand out on Amazon. Or maybe you took the photograph yourself and don't know how to use things like background remover or good lighting, and it's just, doesn't look that great. Or maybe you had a cheap graphic designer to, kind of render the product from scratch, or, edit your own photo, but it doesn't look right and doesn't look very good. Or maybe they Photoshop something in there and it just doesn't look very good. Cheap photography or cheap graphic design is easy to spot. And if you don't get that fixed, people will pass your main image a lot. Now let's talk about mistake number 4. Your listing doesn't convert shoppers. So how do you know if your listing doesn't convert well? Well, you probably have low unit sessions percentage in your business reports. So for products that are under $10, I'd say if you have less than 20% for your product, you probably have low conversion rate. And 20% is high, but if you're under $10, most people will buy that product as long as you have a good listing. If you have less than 12% for products between $10 and $15, then you probably have low unit sessions percentage, which is, and I should explain this, unit sessions percentage is the conversion rate metric on Amazon. It's how many units you sell per amount of people come to the product detail page. So if 100 people click on your page and you sell 20 units, that's a 20% conversion rate. If you have 12 out of 100, then it's 12. And if you have less than 10 for products between $15 and $20, that's probably a little low. 10% should be kind of where you should be at, if not higher, maybe 13, 14%. And if you have 5% or lower for products between 20 and 30, that's probably a little bit low too. You can still probably get 7 to 8% on those products. And if you have less than 3% for products over $30, you might want to try to raise that up. A good listing can pretty much help fix that. Another thing that probably helps you understand if your listing doesn't convert well is if your listing doesn't talk about the benefits of the product to the consumer. So basically, if you're talking about how long it is, the dimensions, the weight, the grip, the ergonomic design, space age functions, high quality, durable, whatever, those things are buzzwords, and a lot of them are specific features of the product. None of them are benefits. A benefit would be something like, don't hurt your back while digging a hole. That's a benefit. So if you have a really good shovel and you say, don't hurt your back while digging a hole, that's a benefit. So use that in your shovel listing. That's just an example for a shovel, but obviously every product on Amazon is designed to create or solve a problem that has been created. That's why the customer is there. They're looking to help you solve a problem. So if you just explain how to solve all those problems, you'll actually be able to convert those customers. Another way to tell if your listing doesn't convert well is if you've keyword stuffed your bullet points. So what I mean by keyword stuffed is essentially you just put a bunch of different related keywords separated by commas into your bullet points. So let's say you're selling an iPhone cable that actually, one of them charging cables, and you say this works for older models, and then you start just listing out the models. So like iPhone, iPhone 2, iPhone 3, iPhone 4, because it's that lightning cable or whatever, and then just listing all of the actual models that it works for. That's basically what we call keyword stuffing. Or if you say something like all the places it works, like say you take this shovel and you can take it to camping, beach, outdoors, indoors, gardening, landscaping, and you're just basically listing out a bunch of different places that it can be used or different ways that it can be used. That again is keyword stuffing. At that point, you're not even writing a benefit-driven bullet point. You're just writing essentially words on paper. All that stuff can be put into the back end of Amazon. You don't have to put that on the customer-facing side of Amazon. Another way to tell if your listing doesn't convert very well is if you have a below 4-star rating. Usually the lower it starts to go on 4s, the less you'll start to convert. So if anytime you see those numbers up there where it's like 20 for 10, 12 for 10 to 15, if anytime you're lower than those numbers that I put up there, it might be because you're getting lower and lower on the star rating. So if you have like a 4.5 star rating, which you should if you have a good product, at least 4.4, 4.5, somewhere in there, then you should probably hit some of those conversion rates. Well, how did you get a bad converting listing in the first place? Well, let's talk about each thing. So you probably use a template to create the listing with generic marketing that doesn't appeal to your target audience at all. So you probably started talking about, highly durable, easy to use, all this stuff. Like these are, so actually easy to use might be kind of a benefit, but you probably have to explain how easy it is to use or why it's easy to use. So maybe, simply dig and simply push the dirt out or whatever, like however you could talk about a shovel, but you don't just say easy to use. You actually talk about how you use it so easily. Right? So if it's an iPhone cable, you just plug it into the wall and plug into your phone. That's it, right? 2 steps. If you could actually start to, change that template and start to market to your own consumers where they actually understand the benefits, then you probably start to make some actual conversion, a good converting listing. You might also have a bad quality product that customers have given bad reviews and ratings on, right? So the first thing that you always want to make sure when you're, if you're starting out or if you're already selling, first thing you always want to do is make sure the quality of your product is good, as good or better than your competitors. Now, I'm not saying you have to create the best version of it. You just have to have one of the best versions of it for the price that you sell it at. So it has to be the best value. That's essentially what I mean by good quality. People have to expect that that quality is going to be good for that price. Maybe you didn't create good lifestyle images or any conversion-focused A+ content. That's maybe a little bit more on the more experienced side of things. But if you don't do that, then you can turn away a lot of customers. And then finally, as I mentioned, you might have tried to use your listing to get SEO ranking on every keyword you could think of without understanding that humans are shopping to buy the product. So stop keyword stuffing. You can do all that stuff on the back end. You get, indexing through Amazon search, the SEO, finding if you put it in the front or back. So you don't have to put all those keywords in a row as a string in the front end. So let's talk about mistake number 5, and that's not optimizing your package, so that you can save on FBA fees and freight fees. So how do you know if your packaging isn't optimized? Well, you're probably paying FBA fees that are higher than your competitors according to the FBA calculator. You go search your competitors on the FBA calculator and you see that they're at like $4 or whatever and you're somewhere over $5. You're probably overpaying because you didn't optimize your packaging or the product in the packaging. Your freight costs actually to Amazon are higher than you anticipated when you put those numbers into your spreadsheet or your profit margin worksheet or whatever you might want to call it. Also, another way you can know if you didn't optimize your packaging is if you actually create a mock-up packaging to see if your product can fit into it, which is smaller than your current packaging. And then you check the FBA fees for that dimensional weight on this mock-up packaging to see if you can save money. That's a little bit more experience for experienced sellers. But what I mean by that is essentially if you can find a way to reduce the packaging on your current product, make it flatter, make it thinner, basically for every inch or quarter inch that you can make that flatter and thinner and whatever, less bulky, you will save money on FBA fees. So always think about how to package your product as compactly as possible. So how did you get oversized or non-optimized packaging in the first place? Well, you might have worked with a graphic designer who created packaging based on your dimensions or style guides, but you weren't aware that you could actually save a lot of money if you trimmed the dimensions or used a container that might have been different. So instead of using a cylinder, you could have used a flatter box, or, instead of rolling it, you could have, folded it, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can save it. The flatter you can make your packaging, the better. Maybe you didn't use the dimensional weight formula that Amazon actually has, or maybe you've never even known that exists to figure out what side lengths of packaging would be optimal. This is a very, I won't say advanced technique, but I would say if you understand how to save money with Amazon FBA fees, you're going to want to know this technique. And I can definitely tell you more about that if you want to know more about that. So comment if you want to know more about dimensional weights and creating more optimal packaging. You might not have known it, but your product could have actually been made to fit in flatter packaging and gotten you into the small standard sizing, but you didn't know about that FBA tier. When basically what you need on this is that you need to have one side under 3/4 of an inch. So it can be 12 by 8 by 3/4 of an inch. And if you do that, you can fit into small standard. So you kind of have to get creative with that. So you might want to fold something, or you might even want to, take the air out of it and, flatten it by vacuum sealing it. Let's talk about mistake number 6. You have hidden FBA fees eating your profit. Now, this one, everybody thinks that there's a lot of mysterious FBA fees. There's really not a lot, but there are some. And actually, this one bit me in the butt this year, but that actual fee doesn't exist anymore, at least not right now. So let's talk about it. How do you know if you have hidden FBA fees? Well, if you go to check your payments, under the payments section, and then you go to buy transaction view, which is a tab at the top, see if you have high storage fees or long-term storage fees. You'll scroll through all the transactions, and you can actually, filter it out to have, I can't remember what the actual option is, but you can have it filter out transactions for like orders and stuff, and then pick fees and stuff like that. And then you can go through it and see what was your monthly storage fee. Was your monthly storage fee, $200, $300, and you expected it to be like 30? Well, then maybe there's something going on. Maybe you have too many products in stock, or products bulkier than you expected, or whatever. Another issue can be long-term storage fee, or what is known as aged inventory as well, because as soon as that happens, you get charged every month on a pretty much a heightened rate, or an increased rate. It could be 2, 3 times, 4 times more than what your storage fees are for your regular products, and you'll be charged that every month until you sell that product, or you dispose of it, or you return it to yourself. Another thing you can do is you can actually check your FBA fees for a single transaction to see if your FBA fee is what you expected it to be, or near what your competitors are. You also want to check to see if there are any other transactions that you're paying that are unexpected, minus the seller account subscription fee each month. So maybe you just happen to see something in there and it says, something you don't expect, and it says, minus $70, and you're like, where's that $70? What did that go to? You know, you'll probably see ad spend in there if you're taking the ads out from your account instead of putting it on a credit card. You'll probably see long-term or regular storage fees, monthly storage fees. But if you see anything else kind of coming out and you don't know what it is, definitely make sure that you take note of it. Take note of what that order is, and then start to talk to Amazon about what is that cost, and especially if you see it recurring. So how did you get hidden fees anyway? Well, you probably didn't understand that a large item will have high storage fees, especially in Q4, which has triple the price of other months for storage. This is a true fact. If you're storing anything in FBA, Amazon inventory in FBA, then you are going to get triple the amount of, price per square footage for storing something in Amazon FBA in Q4 versus the rest of the year. So make sure you store as little as needed, but don't run out in FBA inventory. You can actually send the stuff to AWD now, which is their Amazon warehousing and distribution centers, so that you can actually pay 40 cents a unit instead of $2.40 a unit. Another way that you can get hidden fees is your product doesn't sell very well and it's been sitting in Amazon FBA for over a year. That's that aged inventory or long-term storage fee. Your product is bigger than you thought it would be. Maybe you didn't understand how to package it right, and we just talked about that mistake as well. So these are all hidden fees that you're basically just not aware of, that when you first order the product, that you're going to have to pay attention to once it goes live on Amazon. Also, your product or packaging makes the dimensional weight bigger than it needs to be. So your product is bigger or your packaging is bigger. Either way, if one of those things happens, you'll have higher FBA fees than you expected. And I'm going to tell you about the mistake, if I want to call it that, or the big hidden fee that I got hit with this year. Basically, I have a seasonal winter product in the UK that usually sells about 10,000 units in 4 months, so about 2,500 units a month for 4 straight months. Last year, it sold about 4,000 units, which left me about 6,000 or more units in stock at the end of the season in Amazon FBA. That's a problem. Amazon also decided to make a brand new policy at the time where they charge for what they called overage fees. This is when essentially if your product exceeds a monthly storage capacity, which changes every month, they're going to give you a bill for the storage fee. And it's massive. It's like 7 or 8 times the normal storage fees. Since my product doesn't sell very well in spring, summer, or fall, it started to get a very low capacity limit because it's based on the last 30, last 60, last 90-day sales. So once February, March, April, May started coming, my capacity limit started dwindling, and that storage overage fee started growing. I actually got charged £2,000, Great British pounds, for 1 month of overage fees. Then I started disposing and liquidating items, basically just trying to get these things out of stock, trying to remove them because I didn't have a 3PL over there. I basically was just like trying to get these things to a 3PL, and they were saying it was going to cost me more than just getting rid of it and sending it, trying to send it back in later and stuff like that. So I just started getting rid of these products to avoid this, a huge £2,000 fee. The next month I was charged around $1,000, even after liquidating and disposing of a bunch of products. So I had to get my storage way down because that limit kept going down. But it still wasn't enough. And then I kept disposing and liquidating my goods, but kept incurring about £200 per month for those overage fees alone, on top of standard storage fees. So I was still having like $100, $200, $300 storage fees, plus every month these extra ones for overage fees. In July, Amazon stopped their policy of charging me for overage fees, or anybody from overage fees, but I still didn't get my money back. I still lost about roughly £4,500, somewhere probably that's about $4,500, $4,500 in just overage fees alone. And I knew what I was doing, but I didn't expect the sales to dry up so fast because the UK had a warmer than normal winter and the ice and snow just didn't come. I did not expect that. So I was ready for the sales, but I should have in reality found a 3PL, or if Amazon has AWD now in the UK, I'll send all my goods there instead, so that way I don't get hit with those FBA fees. Let me give you one more bonus mistake, which is you ran out of cash after ordering inventory. This is a big one. This is actually the biggest one that nobody talks about, and it's the biggest mistake. Almost every seller makes this one. How do you know if you ran out of cash? This is pretty easy. Your bank account is close to $0 and you can't keep funding the business. You're out of cash, right? You might have an invoice to pay and you just don't have the money to pay it. You have to reorder inventory but don't have enough funds to do so. Well, and then maybe you have to take out a loan or put payments on credit cards to keep the business going. How did you run out of money? Well, you probably picked a product that was too big, too heavy, or too expensive for your budget. So your situation is unique to anybody else's, and you have to know exactly what your budget is for ordering the product, launching the product, getting the marketing, getting a reorder, making sure you have enough money to kind of keep this business going. You can't just think that the first order of your inventory is all the money you need. Another way that you can run out of money is by prioritizing selling at a high profit margin when you could have actually increased your cash flow by actually selling at a less expensive price and a healthy margin, let's say above 35%. What I mean by this is a lot of people will say, okay, I just ordered 2,000 units of a product or whatever. I want 50% profit margin. So I'm going to sell at $39.99. All my competitors are selling at $25.99. The product's not selling very well. It's just sitting there. So essentially you just have money sitting on a shelf in Amazon. And as you start to get storage fees, ad fees, all that stuff, and it's not selling well, you run out of money. And you would rather probably actually have sold, at a 35% margin, maybe at $29.99 or whatever that margin may be, and sell those units. Obviously you have to make sure that your product's not too big, too heavy, too expensive as well, but get those margins down and then start getting the cash flow back in your business. You probably didn't plan out your marketing costs properly either. So you probably didn't even understand you had to pay for marketing. Maybe you have to do Vine reviews, or maybe you have to pay for Amazon sponsored ads, and you didn't plan for any of that. You might have actually had production issues with your product that cost you extra money that you didn't even think was possible or didn't know that was possible. So now you've actually haven't even got the product shipped and you're out of money because you had these production issues. That can happen. That's an unfortunate issue, but that's something you still have to plan for as well. Your freight was too expensive, or you didn't plan for that as well. So say again, if you're only planning for this inventory and that's all the money you think you need, you're not planning for your business properly. Another way that you can run out of money is you didn't create a timeline for how long it would take to start making money back in your business. If you think that you're just going to get money like 3 weeks into running this business and that's going to carry you and you're going to be able to do all the things that you want to do, that's not very likely in the first product or the first, couple of products maybe. Each product actually is going to, sell at a loss for a certain time. It could be 5 weeks, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, depending on how competitive your niche is and how much your products actually cost. So make sure you create a timeline for how long you think it's actually going to take to start making money, and then plan for all the money you're going to need in that time period. So let's recap. Here's what you need to avoid when you're running an Amazon FBA business. Number 1, picking the wrong product based on poor keyword research. Number 2, overpricing your product. Number 3, not having a main image that attracts shoppers. Number 4, not creating a listing that actually converts the shoppers once they're there. Number 5, making sure that you actually have packaging that saves you money on FBA fees and freight. Number 6, making sure you don't actually have any hidden FBA fees that you're not aware about. And number 7, make sure you have enough funds to run the business after purchasing your inventory. Now that you're armed with this information about what costly mistakes you can avoid on Amazon FBA, it's your job to make sure you don't make these exact same mistakes in your Amazon FBA business. Head to the link in the description below to download a free copy of my ebook, Thriving on Amazon FBA. Also, make sure to check out the rest of the videos on this channel to learn more about the ins and outs on Amazon FBA. Until next time, take care.